I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, November the 19th, brought to you in part by Real Max Herd Health Mineral Programs, providing ranchers the tool to ensure 15 to 30% forage savings. How important is that? To bring profits back into ranching. For more information, go to realmax.net. We're eyeing April again, and April's your all-important live cattle futures month out there, the contract, and guys look to that as far as hedging cattle for feeding from the middle of the summer on through the end of the year. But it's a big deal, and it's always the highest one of your live cattle contracts. And even though it was down on Wednesday, down 62 cents, it's still sitting up there at 116.62. Looks pretty handsome whenever you're trying to hedge cattle off of it. And now that we're getting through a lot of these calves, we're starting to see some of these bigger yearlings. And a lot of them have been backgrounded, or they've been getting supplemental feeding. Some of them shut up in some kind of a growing yard, but still those cattle will hedge, and guys are going out and really putting the drive on for them. And your calf market's been going really well too, because we've seen a little bit of moisture in your hard red winter wheat regions, and we're starting to get a little more grazing out there. It's not enough to really hold them unless we get some more moisture out there. I saw before I left home they were calling for some moisture around Amarillo there on this weekend, and boy, I hope and pray we get some of that. But get up into Kansas and western Oklahoma and places, I tell you what, that wheat looks pretty darn good out there. And you've got your farmers coming in. We've wrapped up harvest, and we've got Midwestern farmers and Northern Plains farmers coming back into the market looking for a winter backgrounding project, or maybe some of them on some bigger, heavier calves feed out project. But things are just looking pretty good, and your markets are holding well. We gained a lot of ground last week for the most part, and this week some markets are gaining more, but some of them are just kind of holding unevenly steady, and we're just glad to see that. But let's look at the board for Wednesday. December live cattle futures down 67 cents at 110.65, and you say, my gosh, why is the board down if everything's kind of looking up? Well, your wholesale beef prices have gone up a bunch this week, yet your cattle sellers seem content with steady money. So they, it doesn't bode to be strong for the market. Whenever you got your cattle sellers just being content with steady money, when your packers are increasing their margins, and so that's a little bit of a negative. But I mean, it hadn't fell completely out of bed, and your December contract is still a premium to what your fat cattle are bringing. Of course, that don't help your hedged sellers any, but it doesn't look too bad as far as an investor goes. February was down 42 cents at 113.15, down 42, like I said, at 113.15. Going out from there, and your out front live cattle contracts were down 57 cents to down $1.15. November feeder cattle down 35 cents at 137.02. January down pretty hard at down 242 at 137.30, and you go on out front and they were all down pretty hard from $1.25 to 227, and you think, well, that's got to have something to do with your grains, and maybe it did to a certain extent. Your December corn Chicago Board of Trade futures were up 5.5 cents at 425.75. We're now down to January beans. They were up 6 cents at 11.75 3/4. So that is something that everybody's looking to. We've enjoyed cheap feed, a lot of cheap inputs for a long time on our feeder cattle, and we're just having to take a look and remember to look back at what our feed inputs are going to be. These feedstuffs are getting more expensive. We don't have these ethanol plants open. They're not putting as much byproduct out, and it's starting to make a big difference out there. Your fat cattle trade, we had more trade at steady money on Wednesday. Probably the bulk of the sales would have been sold on Wednesday. We got a lot of confirmed sales. A lot of those sales wouldn't have been picked up yet, but Wednesday will be your bigger day, and like I said, it doesn't bode well for your market when guys give in at steady money whenever your wholesale beef prices are way higher than they were even a week ago. But still, I mean, we didn't have to take less, so I guess that's a good thing. And we just got, that's why I say when we have opportunities to gain a lot of ground like we did last week, we should have had you know, more money than that, more market position, because it doesn't happen every week that you can do that. But confirmed sales on Wednesday, Iowa 2,600 head, 106 to 110. Of course, that's Iowa. They have a spread usually. And your dress sales from 168 to 172, but I wouldn't necessarily call that a weak market, because you look at Nebraska, 5,700 head there, pretty much everything at $110 and 172, and that's straight up steady. Kansas, 11,600 on Wednesday, all at $110, and Texas, 5,400 head at 110 also. So your fat cattle market is absolutely steady. Like I mentioned earlier, your wholesale beef price is higher. They gained big bucks earlier in the week, and box beef cutout values, choice cuts on Wednesday afternoon up again. You remember they up like $6 on Tuesday. On Wednesday, up $2.12 again at $235.84. I mean, this is big dollars in your packers' pockets, guys. Select cuts ended the day on Wednesday at $213.62. Down 34 cents is all. But I tell you what, big prices on your wholesale beef, and it's seasonally. It's time for those prices to start coming up. Even if we're locked down, people are still going to eat, whether they cook it themselves. I mean, our food service has been crap ever since this COVID deal showed up. So don't have to worry about that. We've got some panic buying taking place, and if people, whether the officials like it or not, people are going to have their family over for the holiday season. It's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. I mean, a lot of people, you know, if they don't live together, that's the only time they see their family is during the holidays, and they're going to do it. You can't completely overtake our entire lives. A lot of people are not that scared of this virus. Some people are. Some people need to be. Some people that have pre-existing conditions. If you're old, if you're overweight, if you're a cancer victim, if you've got some serious health problems that you're fighting all the time, yeah. You need to stay off to yourself. You need to wear your mask. They say that helps. I'm not convinced it does help, but you've got to quarantine yourself. And if you think about in the cattle, and I assume that everybody that watches this has had some experience with cattle, you quarantine the sick individuals. You don't quarantine the whole healthy herd. I mean, what fool does that? But that's what you do. That the people that are the most likely to have trouble getting over something like this, those are the ones that need to be quarantined. Not everybody, but that's what's going to happen. People are going to get together for the holidays, and whether they cook a rib roast or they do something like that, or they get people together, throw some steaks on the grill if it's not too cold, they're still going to do it. And likely we're seeing that because the rib has posted all-time highs for this time of the year. The rib, that is where your high cuts come from. That's where your most expensive meat comes from, right in there. And that's the kind of stuff that people treat their guests to. So we've seen that, and likely we're going to see some panic buying on that as we're seeing more and more shutdowns all the time, and people know the holidays are coming up. They know they can freeze that product and have it at their beck and call, so a lot of them are going to do it. Your slaughter's been pretty impressive so far this week. 359,000 through Wednesday. That's 7,000 more than last week and 1,000 more than the same week a year ago. Let's talk about what else is going on around the circuit. I've been telling you guys about Knoxville Regional up there in Iowa selling at auction, and it did indeed sell on Wednesday. And you know, maybe I'm not supposed to report this, but I had several people that were there that told me about it. But word on the street is it sold for $640,000 at auction. I had some locals there that were running close behind, but the winning bid went to a reputable livestock marketing outfit from out of state. So likely they'll be coming in there and trying to make that sale barn work. We wish them the best of luck. But that's what happened there, and it actually kind of looks like a buy. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't get it sold well. There were plenty of people there to bid on it. Everybody knew it was happening. It's an investment there. But, it takes a lot of money. It's not just the sale barn. You got to buy all the equipment. You're going to have a hell of a big line of credit there to get off and running. And it's going to take some doing to get that deal off the ground. But anyway, that's what I heard on the street, and you guys got it from right here. How about Joplin Regional Stockyards? They're having their prime time livestock video here on Thursday today at 1 o'clock p.m. So you guys get on there, and they're having a pretty good run, guys. They're not having it at the casino, but they are having it there at the barn, and going to have a pretty good run. And my buddy Mark Harmon, he sent me the listing that they had, and man, I mean, a lot of good cattle on there. A lot of good fancy home-raised cattle, and a lot of big strings of put-together commodity cattle. That's what you guys expect from Joplin, a mix of both, and that's what they've got. A lot of yearlings on there. They've got some calves on there too, but some big strings of yearlings, and got enough weight to them where if you guys have been eyeing that April, like I was talking about earlier, you may want to get in there and look at that. But don't forget that you can go on to that video sale at primetimelivestock.com or at dvauction.com and get the same console on both. You can view and bid that sale right there. Don't miss the opportunity to get some of these cattle put together, because as we get closer to the weather changing and stuff, there's not going to be as many of these cattle available. I've traveled out here to Fallon, Nevada. I told you guys I was coming out here, help my buddy Jack Payne's got the sale at Nevada Livestock Marketing in Fallon, Nevada. Got a huge special. I mean, a big time, big special out here. I was able to help him with his auctioneering duties a month ago when I was out here for the Ranchers for Trump rally. Come back this time, he's got 4,500 head. They don't have runs like that out here in the desert, guys. 4,500 head on offer, big strings. It's not going to take 2 days to sell them because they got big strings. A lot of strings, 200-300 head or more. And he told me he's got those cattle sorted up. You can keep them all black, or he's kept them all black for you in the sort up. Said he's going to need some guys to come in there that want to buy some of those good Red Angus Cross and Charolais Cross cattle, because he's keeping some of the bigger deals black. But he needs somebody to come in and buy those really, really good colored cattle that'll end up getting bigger than the black ones. You guys, you and I both know it. But he said a lot of those strings of calves come in. They're mostly all weaned. I tell you what, they've been worked. They're out here, they're dried out, they're hard as rocks. Absolutely. And I tell you what, you guys sure need to take a look at them. He said a lot of them sorted up in bunches weighing around 350, 450, and 550. And then he's also got a big bunch of yearlings, strings of yearlings in here. True yearling cattle, been out for a long time. I mean, not a lot of supplemental feeding around here, guys. I tell you what, these cattle will absolutely do it all. Don't worry about the wheels you're going to have to put under them to get them where you want them. But be sure and get on that sale, dvauction.com, Nevada Livestock Marketing, here today on Thursday, and it doesn't start until noon Pacific. So that's going to be mid-afternoon for you guys out there in the central part of the country, or going to be 1 o'clock for you guys in the mountain time zone. But be sure and get on that sale. Let's talk about your cattle market, feeder cattle. Real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Wednesday at 137.83. That was up 57 cents, so gained some ground. So you're figuring that your feeding type cattle were selling higher, and indeed they were. Big sale, Oklahoma City, or OKC West, excuse me, Reno, Oklahoma. OKC West had 11,800 head for the 2-day sale. Had a lot of calves on Tuesday, and a lot of bigger feeding cattle on Wednesday. The feeders sold $2 to $4 higher. The calves sold $2 to $6 higher. But the most impressive quote that I saw was on some big cattle right off grass. 100 head, weighed 1030. They'll make that April deal pretty easy at $128.50 on a $110 fat cattle market. That's a pretty impressive quote out of a sale that doesn't feature big near bear feeder cattle like that. And in the southern plains. How about winter livestock? Dodge City, Kansas, 2,500 head there. Feeders sold steady to $3 higher. And that was for the heifer calves too, and the steer calves sold $3 to $6 higher. Awfully good sale there at Winter Livestock in Dodge. St. Joe Stockyards, my old stomping grounds, my buddies out there, 2,700 head there. They're getting to the time of year when they're really going to have the big receipts. Their biggest sale is always the first sale after the new year. So that's whenever the farmers in that part of the country that are diversified have cattle too. When they get done farming, that's when they wean their cattle and they put a hard wean on them, and then they'll show up with those cattle right after the first of the year. But 2,700 head here in early to mid-November is not too bad. Had a higher undertone, lighter run last week, but after that big monster quote that they had 2 weeks ago, but still some pretty stick-out deals. How about this deal here on some big feeding type calves? The Critton cattle, 139 head of them steer calves, weighed 713 at 160.75. And then the Spellmeyer cattle, 115 head of them, weighed 869 at 146.10. You're thinking, well, let's talk about calves because we're selling calves. It's that time of year. How about Torrington Livestock Market's the biggest lightweight calf quote that I've seen. 63 head, 403-pound steers weighing over 4 guys at 199.50. But Bassett Livestock up in Bassett, Nebraska on the Yellow Brick Road, they had a sale on Wednesday, and we had to talk about that. 2,800 head there. Very comparable to the sale that they had a week ago. So a pretty good deal there, and kind of unevenly steady on most quotes there. Some weren't comparable, and I'm going to give you a monster quote on some big heavy steers here in a minute. But maybe the biggest quote that I saw all day was on some reputation ball and calves, but 5,700 or 57 head, 609-pound unweaned steer calves at 162.75. Wow. But the biggest quote that I saw anywhere, and the Zach Tran top quote of the day, come out of Bassett also there. And Shane Caxar sent me this picture of the scoreboard when they went through. He said these were all black, not program cattle, but all black feeder steers, 115 head right off grass, 958 pounds, bring $149. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.